So we're going to dive into a couple things tonight and really teach you a little bit of science behind how does one become affected and infected. Affected and infected. Two different things. We can be affected, which we all are, but infected is totally different. So we're going to dive in a little bit of science tonight. And so when you look at this COVID-19, there's a question.
Yeah, what is the best thing to do? Is it prevention? Make your immune system strong? Be strong from the inside out? Or to be in a state of reaction, where now we are actually driven to the hospital, into the emergency, and possibly admitted to the ICU. So we all know, we've heard this before, an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure. Especially in this time, it's worth a ton of cure. Good old Benjamin Franklin said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I think we can all say that that's the truth, right?
So our mission has been clearly, and this is just Dr. Michelle and Dr. Mark speaking from our heart, to really teach people how to walk in a preventive state, a face of unfear, if you will. We need to walk in confidence and boldness because the human body is one of the most remarkable things that's never been figured out. And it won't be figured out. There's not a person, a scientist, a doctor anywhere that's going to figure out the mysteries of all the human body. I hope we can establish that right now. We need to understand that the mysteries are so unique and the body is so amazing that it has a chance to defend against things that try to come in us or on us and try to kill us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight. I think we all agree with that. So when we talk about this whole ounce of prevention thing, we need to embrace that with all that we have and also understand that there is time for proper reaction. So it's better to prevent and also know how to respond in a reactive way.
So facts that we need to know. We know that viruses have been around since the beginning of time. They're not going to go away. In fact, they're likely to mutate and become different forms. Now, a virus is not a living thing. It's only got one single strand. It's either an RNA virus or a DNA virus, but they mutate, and they may cause people to die. However, those that die usually have all kinds of other comorbid conditions. And a lot of times, doctors can't even prevent this death.
I think these facts to know here should be really ingrained in our system as we think about this, because to try to reduce viruses will be a futile attempt in insanity because they've been around since the beginning of time. They'll be around after we're off this earth, right? So we need to understand that. And also understand that the idea that, we all can prevent death or cheat death is false too, because we're all going to die. Right. And so the idea is, and I hope everybody catches this, watch my hand up here, I want you to see this. Life is said to go like this. We'll do that one more time, like this. We're born, we reach our peak earning years, we're married, we have kids, we have grandkids, and then we start this slow decline. Question for you. Who made that rule? Do we have to have that? How many think that this may be a little bit better? Watch this. We're born, we have a high quality of life, and then we die. And then if we know where we're going, we don't die, we live. What's the loss? It's all gain. So we need to change our perspective and really embrace these facts, but also begin to really understand them from a much deeper level.
So let's talk about the reaction response. When we react to this situation, what are we doing? We're treating the symptoms. Over-the-counter medications, maybe pharmaceutical medications, but we're trying to minimize the damage. That's right, minimize the damage, the collateral damage that's done to cells and tissue. And then we try to restore function and get that system back to optimal health.
Now, here's the key to understand to the reaction response. I think everybody knows that this is absolutely necessary. We have some of the best acute care medicine in the world. That's good.
And we need it.
We do. It's great. We need to react accordingly. However, when we have a reaction response, we need to understand a couple of things. Number one, that the medications that might be necessary used to treat the symptoms actually create other problems in the body because they actually pull out vitamins and minerals. They destroy the gut microbiome. They can lower your immune system. Part of the comorbidities today that we deal with, when we say comorbidities, everyone understand what we're talking about? Co-conditions or co-illnesses. Everybody get that? Right? So part of those were created because of drugs that were given that suppress the immune system. Okay, so we need to kind of understand that there's a connection there. And we are not anti-medication at all. We are pro-medication when necessary. We are anti-medication when unnecessary. Okay, I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Now, the prevention response, of course, we're going to try to avoid it, right? Or maybe. Herd immunity comes from everybody being in contact with a little bit of that virus or that thing that might get us in order to become immune. So we've really got to equip the body to fight. We've got to get the immune system so strong that if we are exposed, that the resiliency can withstand the test of time. So we've got to be strong all the way down to that cellular level.
So let's talk about this briefly. How do we get immunity? I mean, how does it happen? So when we're born with what is called innate immunity, I-N-N-A-T. And that innate immunity comes from our mama, right? Pretty much, and our mom and dad. So how many in here, ladies, breastfed? Yeah. So when you breastfed, you gave your child innate immunity, what you had. And they got that through breast milk, which is really cool. But then the child has to be exposed to stuff. So their exposure to stuff, their exposure to the outside world creates new challenges because they've been in the womb. They don't know anything about the outside world. This is all new. So now these new threats are everywhere. So the body has to deal with them. So the immune system will begin to adapt. Isn't that cool? So get the analogy. My wife said it to me the other day, and I thought, how brilliant is that? The adaptive immune system has been through a great education.
It's been to school.
It's been given tests, and it's passed the test. Pretty brilliant example, isn't it? So the immune system has been challenged over the time, especially as young children, builds a very strong adaptive response. We all know that if we played on the farm and actually threw cow patties at each other and played in the dirt and played with the crawdads and the worms and ate bugs off the ground, we probably have a really good immune system. If we're not dead right now, right? So the point being, this immune system is great and it's meant to help us. It's shown itself to be worthy in history, or we wouldn't be here tonight. So it's adapted. So we know there's something there that we have to do. So whatever we can do is what we're saying on the preventive side to build the adaptive immunity is probably a good thing, right? So can we all agree with that? We need both, right? So now let's dive into a little bit of science. This is where it gets really cool.
So
now, go ahead.
What are these affected areas in the system? How does this thing called SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 get into the system?
So get ready to learn some cool stuff right here. So look at the screen. Pay close attention. The ACE2 receptor, see that on the left side of the screen? That's a receptor that's kind of like a lock, right? And it sits, as you see on the right side of the screen, we have these little locks that sit in our nose, our nasal mucosa, our heart, our lungs, and even somewhere down in our colon. They're there. They're waiting on something to be stuck in the lock, right? It's interesting to understand that the ACE2 receptor is a receptor that actually causes blood pressure to go down, because it causes the vessels to relax. Isn't that kind of cool? So it makes sense that if we have problems relaxing the blood vessels, we might have problems with this receptor. Might kind of see that? Right? You guys with me so far? This is where it gets cool. So the little virus that floats around, and most viruses look like this. You see that just above the ACE2 receptor, there's kind of that circle with these little spiky things coming off of it. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, and so does the SARS-CoV-1, certain viruses have spikes. How many, when you were little kids, got into sticker bushes? And they got all over your pants, man. Remember those things? And they hurt like the dickens. I like to look at these SARS-CoV-1 and 2 viruses as stickers. They're looking to stick something. And once they get in this area up here, which is one of the theories of wearing the mask. Now, there are differing theories about the size of the virus getting through the mask or not, right? So won't go there tonight, but the bottom line is this is the theory behind that, right? So once the virus hits into these nasal mucosal areas, these little stickers, if they find a lock, they're going to plop right in there, and they're stuck in the receptor. Now, question for you at this point. In the tubes of our body, the mouth to the, well, you know, the other side of the tube. I don't want to use the word. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? We're adults here. Come on, right? So the bottom line is in the tubes, there's always protection on the outside so that things can't get in and out appropriately because the body's got to protect itself, right? Defense mechanism. So when the key gets stuck in the lock or the sticker gets into the lock, polling the room, does that mean you're infected or affected? How many say infected? How many say affected? The affected would be right because you are affected. It has crossed your path. You have met this guy. It's met you. But it does not mean you're infected. Wouldn't it be cool? Now, this is a thought, just a random thought, and then we'll jump ahead. When a person gets a Q-tip stuck up there, if they were to sample and get a little bit of this DNA from this little sticker that's stuck on the ACE2 receptors, does that mean, along the same thinking, that you're infected just because you get something stuck there? Now, this is going to challenge your brain a little bit. So you got a nasal pharyngeal swab, and it was positive. How many say that means you're affected? How many does it say that you're infected? Keep your hands down. The answer is you're affected. I hope that was like a light bulb moment, right? Now, we're going to take it one step deeper. How does one prevent, potentially, affection becoming infection? This is where it gets kind of cool. All right. So now we've zoomed in. You see the little ACE2 receptor right there? And we've blown up this big sticker, right? So the sticker's blown up. He's stuck in there, okay? This is the key. On the top side of that line where it says attachment, and you see the ACE2, go to the right. You're going to see a protease called TMPRSS2. Protease is another word for enzyme, okay? Enzymes break things apart. So that guy's job is to survey the area and say, hey, I see you. You stuck your key in my lock. So I'm going to go over here and let you in my door. So you can come in the house and you can be part of I can host you. You tracking with me? Right? So if this guy opens the door for everybody, what a fool. How many would open your door of your house for anybody? No, you look outside and you say, who is that? Right? Right, Clay? Right, Vanessa? You look outside and you say, well, who is that? Or maybe you got a camera, right? So this protease guy, he generally checks the window. He checks the door. He's looking everywhere. And if he senses that it's danger, he ain't opening the door. That's pretty good. However, everybody say however.
However.
This is where it gets kind of dreadful. I'll tell you, when we have a lot of chronic systemic inflammation driven by the standard American diet lifestyle, he doesn't know where the threats are because they're coming from the back door, the side door, the window, the roof, the floor. They're all over the place through the sewer, the garbage. He doesn't know, so he's opening the door for everybody. With me on it so far? This is where it gets fascinating. So we started digging around in literature, actually. We digged around and found some stuff on the National Institutes of Health. We were looking for studies that said, well, if this protease guy is going rogue on us, is there any way to kind of grab him by the shirt and say, hey, stop. Don't open that door. We found the answer. And it's probably yes, we can. Here's what I mean by that. Because if you look to the right of the protease receptor, you'll see that word that says inhibition. Everybody see the word inhibition? So inhibition means I'm going to stop you and chill you out, man. Don't answer the door. Don't let them in. The SLPI, it has a name, just if anybody wonders and taking notes, it's called selective leukocyte protease inhibitor. And what happens is when it gets upregulated within our nasal mucosa, it says, hey, Mr. Protease, you need to watch your P's and Q's and don't answer the door for any bad guys. So the SLPI inhibitor will actually stop the enzyme from opening the door. Isn't that cool? So now we have probably a way to keep the affection staying affected for a limited time until it's, Dr. Michelle said, the virus is not alive, so it can basically be washed away eventually, right? But we also have a way, probably, of keeping it from coming into the body. How many think that's pretty cool? And we found this. This is neat, right? And it's actually in governmental literature. Not another government, our government. Pretty cool. So the question becomes is, what in the world? I should say, what in God's green earth? Some of y'all got that. Would upregulate the SLPI inhibitor. Man, I want to kick that guy in the backside and say, go to work, dude. How many want that? What does that? There's a chemical that you see right there. It's a compound produced in the human body called sulforaphane. How many have heard of that before? Really cool. It's produced in the body. So we have to think about sulforaphane upregulating this guy that holds our protease somewhat accountable, which is good.
So where does one get sulforaphane? It comes from high-dose broccoli sprout powder that contains two things, glucoraphanin and myrosinase, which is the enzyme that when it is combined with glucoraphanin in the digestive juices of your stomach, it produces sulforaphane. So when you're looking for these two things in a nutraceutical, you have to be very careful what you're purchasing because not all supplements are created equal.
So here's what I mean by that. So sprouts, young plants of any plant, has about 100 times more concentration of nutrients than an adult plant. Kind of makes sense. And then when you cook plants, obviously the nutrient composition goes down. We all get that, right? That's important to understand. But when you get sprouts and they're prepared correctly, does anybody in the room grow sprouts? Anybody? There you go. Of course, Mary does. I knew that. Mary grows everything, right? So here's the thing. Growing sprouts, actually gives us the ability to get production of sulforaphane. Mainly when we eat young plants of the crucifer family, broccoli specifically, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, bok choy. There are two compartments that are separate in the middle of that plant. One compartment has a compound called glucoraphanin. Okay? Don't need to know the name. Just call it that glucose stuff, right? It's got glucoraphanin. But it also has an enzyme in another compartment called myrosinase. You have to have both because when you chew on it or put moisture in it or it hits the gut, those guys will come together and they'll make sulforaphane. I think that's pretty cool. So if we would begin to do that on a prophylactic basis, we talked about that word prophylactic last time as a sort of this all-out preventive sort of care, part of our repertoire for defense, that would in fact assist our adaptive immune system to function more efficiently and prevent, quite likely, viral entry. How many think that's kind of cool? So it's important, as Dr. Michelle said, not all these supplements are created equal. So a couple points on that, and then we'll move on. If you're looking for a supplement that contains that ingredient and it says it has it in it, don't buy it. Because it can't have it in it. It has to be produced in the compound of the body. So if you look at the label and it says it has sulforaphane, that's a false statement. Okay? It doesn't work like that. You have to have glucoraphanin and myrosinase in there, and it has to be a plant that's not been heated in its production to put in the capsule. Okay? Hope that makes sense to everyone. Everybody got that? Good? Pretty cool stuff, huh? So we wanted to kind of give you some tools from a health tip side to do that because I think it's fascinating what we can do and what the body can do if given the proper fuel. It's not a novel concept. When I said, what in God's green earth? I meant that, right? We need to trust what's in the earth because we came from the dirt. So our dirt suits, as I like to say, are regulated well if we play in the dirt and eat from the dirt. Don't go get a bucket of dirt and say, Dr. Mark said I need to eat dirt. Don't do that. I didn't say that. You get my point in my weird, twisted sense of humor, right? Okay, so we're going to have some, everybody say that word together?
Giveaways. Well, our guest speaker, I know you guys are getting anxious to hear who we have to speak to you tonight. We're going to give away a few gifts. So we're waiting for our Wheel of Fortune to come up here.
Okay, Wheel of Fortune. Can I spin it?
Wheel of Fortune. I'm going to spin it. Okay. You can give it away.
Okay, got it.
Ready? Number 1. We're giving away a detox kit to the first person is Elaine Bynum. Is Elaine in the house? Elaine?
There you go.
Elaine gets a detox
Congratulations,
kit.
Elaine.
Number 2. Make sure somebody's here. Derek Hill. Is Derek in the house?
Derek's in the house. Wonderful. Lacey coming back to giving her detox away. The next winner is?
Vicki Moore.
There you go.
Vicki in the house.
Right over there. And the lovely Jennifer coming back. I feel like I'm on a game show or something. Here you go.
Got one left. And that one is for Phil Yannicone.
Yay, Phil.
Did I say
there
that
he is
right?
right there. One more for the lovely Lacey. One more. We got one more.
One more. Let's get this spinning.
You can't draw your own name, sweetheart. No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Ronna Hager.
Ronna Hager. Right
Ronna,
over there. Yes,
come on
yes,
up.
yes. I met her just a moment ago. Okay. Here's your phone back, sir. All right. So those detox courtesy of Biotics Research out of Austin, Texas. Pretty cool.
That's one of the detox boxes that we do in the clinic at least twice a year. We get together as a community and everybody kind of goes to cleaning out the house. And the holidays are getting ready to come upon us. And we know that once Halloween comes, Thanksgiving comes, Christmas comes, New Year's comes, Valentine's Day comes, and Easter comes. That's 6 holidays to just blow it. So if we do a detox before the holidays, we are setting ourselves up for success, and we aren't gaining not only the COVID-19, but the holiday 20. So we always encourage doing a detox before the holidays.